Hey, welcome back to the channel. Well, it's been raining all night and all this morning. Everything's soaking wet. But you find yourself in a situation where you have to spend the night. So you got to build a fire. So what do you got to do? You got to find dry materials. And you need multiple ways to start a fire, ignition sources. So you should always carry several ways to build a fire with you when you're out and about. Whether you're just taking a quick little day hike or a little walk, you should have something with you. And I'll show you some of those things as well. So we're going to be covering over some of that stuff today, and let's just go get started. All right. All right, so whether you're just out taking a walk, or you're hiking, or you're hunting or camping or anything, you should have multiple ways to start a fire. That's why I always make these little Altoid tins up. And inside I keep multiple ways to start a fire with. So let's take a look at a few things here. All right, so inside my tin, I always have a Fresnel lens. Now this isn't going to help you if the sun's not out. And this time of year around here, we see the sun very little. So that's out of the question here today. I always have char cloth. You always want char material with you. So I have char cloth. I got some charred punk wood in here. I always keep a Bic lighter. A little bit of book matches. Have wax coated cotton in these little straws here. I have little pieces of Fatwood in here. I have the storm-proof matches. So I have multiple ways in this kit to start a fire. And that's what you want. If you're ever stuck out in the woods and you got to spend the night, it sure would be nice to have a nice warm fire. Or it could be a life or death situation where that fire and that warmth is going to save your life. So everything I keep in my tin here, and another thing that I'm adding to my tin that I don't have in here but I have it on my keychain, and that is a keychain ferro rod. So that way I always have a ferro rod with me. Even if all I have with me is my keys, I still have a ferro rod. And you can take one of these keys and use to scrape the ferro rod with, or if you're like me, you always carry a pocket knife, and you can use that to scrape your ferro rod with. Multiple ways to start a fire. That's what you're after. All right, I noticed these pine cones here on the ground. We're going to gather some of these up. And once we get a flame going, we can throw these on. The sap on these will get going pretty easy. And that'll just help get our flame bigger so that we can get some fine sticks on there. It might be wet, and get them dried out to start to burn. All right, no matter how much it rains, you can always find some dry material somewhere. Take like old trees here and peel back the bark. Search around. Usually underneath the bark, stuff will be dry, and you can dig this out. See, we're getting into some dry wood here. This all can be used to help you get a fire going. So you got to take advantage of everything that you can find. So we'll take some of that with us, and we got to keep looking. Okay, any tree like this that leans in a steep angle, as you can see, this side of the trees, the bark's dry. So if you look on the ground here, you might be able to find some dry tinder that you can use. These needles here, some of these leaves here aren't that wet. This is all good stuff right here. Alright, well here's something else you can use for a fire, is cattails. Now these are all wet on the outside, but you can pull these apart and get some dry stuff on the inside. Now these are what I call a quick flash. They'll take a spark easy, but they just don't burn too long. They burn out quick. So we'll get in there and get some of the drier stuff out and use that as well. All right, it's always a good idea to have a bag along with you. Ziploc or just a plastic grocery store bag. You can put your dry tinder in that you find. We're just going to check these out here. See, most of this on the inside's fairly dry. So we're going to keep some of that. And if you do get a little bit of flame, this will dry out quick enough. And every little bit will help. Alright, so we're getting a little bit of stuff here. We're going to keep looking. Alright, anytime you can find a tree like this, dead old tree here, you can get in there and find some dry wood. Even if you've got to take your knife and dig around here, you can get into some dry stuff. And if it's good enough to, if you get into some good dried punkwood, that'll be a plus too. I think we'll get some of this. Whoa, them birds about took my head off.
Them birds about took my head off.
Chasing each other around. Just dig in there far enough, you can get some good dry stuff. There we are. Alright, that's why you should always have a knife with you. Whether it's a small bushcraft knife or a pocket knife. So it's been raining all night and this morning here. It just quit here a little bit ago. But you can always dig in here and get some dry stuff out. There's some dry stuff right here. Just get rid of this damp stuff on the outside. And we can use this. This is almost just like punkwood here. Just about. Alright, here's another one of my favorites. Good old birch tree. All right, this stuff's wet, but it's still gonna help us. If you always go around to the underside of the tree, sometimes it's not quite as wet. So we're gonna gather some of this up and put in our pocket. Okay, here's another good example of a place to find something dry. Here's some downed trees here. And if you just look underneath, sometimes you can find some dry material to work with. Here's some drier leaves. They're not bone dry, but they're better than what's out here on the ground. There's some sticks. All right, we'll keep some of this stuff. Okay, here's another tree that's down on the ground. Try to find some stuff underneath here. Just kind of peel back the top layer and you can usually find some drier stuff underneath. All right, all this will work too. Find a tulip poplar tree, a big one that died. You can peel the bark away and get that inner cambium layer. And that's what you want. Now these limbs here, this stuff's still really damp. So it's not going to be much of a help to us. You can find a bigger tulip poplar where the bark's starting to peel away. And you can get in there and get that cambium layer. That's some good stuff for you. All right, here's another example of trying to find a place to find some dry material. Here's the base of a hemlock here. And you can see it kind of has a pocket back in here. So pull the stuff out of the way and you can usually find some dry stuff. Here's a chunk of dry wood right here. We can use some of that. All right, here's another good fire making thing here. These are what you call birch polypores, but you want to find them when they're dead, no longer on a dead birch. So these ones are dead and not living anymore. These are still soft here. If you were to take one of these off and dry it out good, and then you can cut that in half, and they'll actually take a spark from a ferro rod, and you can get an ember from one of these. So just something else good to know. Birch polypore. All right, here's some more birch. All right, along with making a fire, we want some real small, fine sticks. So I always look for pine trees, hemlocks if you have them in your area, and get these real fine ones. Even though it's been wet and rainy, these will dry out quick if you get a small flame going. All right, we're going to utilize the materials we got here. Try to get a fire going here. Here's some drier leaves here. Got some drier sticks here. Got that dried out wood. And we got some pine needles here. And that fluff from the cattails there, we're going to use that too. So let's go with that and see what we can get done here. I got the birch bark here that I gathered. It's pretty damp. But I think once we get a flash fire going here, this stuff will dry out. Another thing that's good to use is if you can find some grapevine, you can peel the bark off of it. So we got different things here in our kit here that we can use. We got char cloth. I think we're going to go with a piece of that. We got our Bic lighter, we got matches, and if all else fails, I got some wax coated cotton, some fatwood in there, and some charred punkwood. And we got our storm-proof matches as well. So we're going to use my keychain ferro rod here and try to get this fire going this way instead of using the lighter. So I'm just going to use my pocket knife here, because usually you always have a pocket knife with you, and see what we can get done here. That first strike, the char cloth was already lit. So let's see if we can get this stuff here to ignite. So as you can see, this material is still being a little bit damp. It doesn't want to ignite too good. This old punkwood we got here, it took a flame here and it's holding an ember too. All right, we got a good ember on that punkwood we had there. Just can't get our flame going. You just got to keep working with it. Well, we're getting her slow but sure. As you can see, in damp conditions, it's a little bit tougher getting things going. It can be a struggle starting a fire when everything's damp. The moisture in the air, and we'd really be in trouble if it was still raining out. So that's why it's always important to have multiple ways to start a fire. And we're just gonna show you all these ways here, and hopefully something will get it done for us. So we got one of these storm-proof matches. We'll see what we can do here with it. We'll just get enough heat in there to start drying our materials out, and I think we'll be all right. It's just getting to that point. So all right, we're going to resort to one of these wax cotton and see if we can get stuff going this way. So that's why it's very important to have multiple ways to get a fire going, because you never know what situation you're going to be in. All right, we might have to resort to a little bit of fatwood here. Good old fatwood to save the day, huh? All right, we haven't given up on the ferro rod yet. All right, I didn't say it was going to be easy, and it still might not be. We got to get this stuff going here. The longer you can keep that flame going and keep nurturing it and get your materials all dried out, the better off you're going to be. All right, so as you can see, it's not too easy getting a fire going whenever everything's damp. Even if you think you got dry material, it's still damp enough that it's a struggle. But we got a base of coals here right now, and it doesn't take too much air to get that to perk back up. So you just got to keep nurturing it along and keep adding some fine sticks to it until you get a good base of hot coals. And once you got enough there, then you can start adding more and more material, and then you'll be successful. All right, well, thanks for joining me on this one, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks. Catch you later.